sanctioned by the recall of its ambassador, Salvador Pinto da Franca, to go back in time to recall certain malicious acts by Westerners. Niger since the events of July 26, 2023. Since July 26, 2023, the historic date on which the Conseil National pour la Sauvegarde de la Patrie came to power, governance in Niger has taken a new course. Beyond the repeated announcement of this new stance, all public acts by the new authorities of the universe are strictly in line with this logic. A strong signal sent repeatedly to our partners to tell them that the basis of any partnership with Niger is mutual respect or nothing. Some of our partners quickly understood this, while others, particularly the Westerners, did not. Accustomed to the old order, they are unable to align themselves with this new vision, whose cornerstone remains national sovereignty. Since the beginning of this new dynamic, France has been firing on all cylinders to sow chaos in Niger, sometimes openly, sometimes through international organizations. To convince ourselves of this, we need only look back in time. France has instrumentalized and Cap Sahel manages. A European structure that was supposed to support Niger in the security field, has seen its objective transformed into a niche for subversions, from which agents of the French DGSE conceive and execute operations to destabilize our country. The discovery of new motorcycles, the same ones used by the terrorists, and weapons destroyed because their entry into Niger was not reported, are proof of this. Among the agents of Western intelligence services who have stayed in Niger from Cap Sahel, Regis Barrio, Christine Barche, Philippe Ponce and Sabine Wazani Darby have been particularly active in the maneuver to destabilize our country. They failed. We also remember the discovery of a cache of weapons of war in a district of Niamey. A veritable military operations center with a well-stocked logistical network of less than ultra-modern transmission equipment. Missile launchers, individual and collective weapons and ammunition of all kinds, they failed. After this plot was uncovered, France set its sights on an American NGO called OSA Solution, under the pretext of organizing a training course for local NGOs from August 25 to 27, 2024 at the Alia Hotel in Niamey with instructors from a neighboring country, but whose mission was twofold: to introduce substantial financial and logistical resources for the benefit of these local agents. To recruit additional local sources. France also used 2 offices in Niamey as relays for its intelligence services. The first, called INSO, was located in the Plateau district and headed by Sir Yannick Deville and was used by the French DGSE. In order to recruit sources and agents who very often go on to act, the agents are recruited from among vulnerable people and terrorists in areas of instability and locality where French interests are located. Since their departure, however, French intelligence services have lost contact with a large number of these sources, as the director of INSO, Yannick Deville, and his wife, who is in charge of security training at the same firm, currently stranded. In France, the second structure in the pay of France is the Société Africaine d'Études et des Réalisations, CAII Employ Labour Niger, also owned by a Frenchman. Its management has been entrusted to a Nigerian whose name we won't mention here, in addition to the placement of agents in all the French companies operating in Niger, such as Barkhane, Frank Arano's Summer and many others, with the power to facilitate transactions involving huge sums of money. Former dignitaries of the regime have failed. Then came the episode of the ONG Winrock, used to host French DGSE agents with false passports and nationalities. Fraud of this kind was discovered at Niamey's Joliaman International Airport. As soon as the fraudsters were expelled from our territory, they were stranded at the end of 2023. The murky circumstances of the kidnapping. Just from a vehicle Land Cruiser station wagon of the ONG French Doctors Without Borders fills pharmaceutical products to mongers and regional Tilavania. Then found 2 weeks later in the same place. But emptying its cargo also raises questions about the NGO's alleged support for the region. On May 13, 2024, large quantities of foodstuffs destined for low-cost sale and distribution Gr. targeted at the Bani Bongo operations, Talaberi region, were intercepted by the terrorists by a somewhat dubious and suspicious coincidence. First, an LOPVN vehicle carrying food supplies for these populations was intercepted. Then, a few minutes later, 2 trucks from the World Food Programme, WFP, were also intercepted at the same location. Intercepted by the terrorists, the trucks that day brought 25 tons, 2,000 of baverne, 45 tons of rice and 22 tons of beans belonging to the apples. Was this a disguised supply for the terrorists by the WFP, who informed the terrorists of the movement of these trucks, since they asked the Lopad driver to arrive on the scene first? Why millet? Then announced rice and beans. It's a question worth asking, given this combination of circumstances. The recent development of our relations with the European Union is yet another reminder that underhand maneuvers with the sole aim of destabilizing the Freeze continue. As you will have heard on our airwaves, European Union Ambassador Salvador Pinto da França has taken it upon himself to take the place of the Niger authorities in requesting and obtaining humanitarian aid on behalf of Niger, without any mandate. Amounts of euro 100,003, 100,000 euros? Which he justified by citing the consequences of the recent floods in Niger. Aid obtained in the name of Niger, but not for Niger. It's a case of European diplomats skillfully orchestrating a professional bias and distributing the amount obtained as they please, without bothering with diplomatic usage in such circumstances. Under such conditions, the reaction of our authorities was immediate. In addition to requesting his recall, Niger also commissioned an audit into the management of the funds the ambassador had received. The government's retrenchment over this casual attitude on the part of the European Union's ambassador to Niger was also echoed in Europe, where the press revealed an unorthodox use of funds allocated by the European Union. The newspaper Monde d'Afrique, in its November 25, 2020 issue, wrote, and I quote, "A tight, instructive audit under the dedication of funds cultivated with impunity by the European Union for decades." End of quotes. In the same article, the newspaper also informs us that within the framework of the 6th Mandate 2022-2024 the capsule manages 72 million euros were intended for Niger, but this amount was intercepted, discarded by France. Other sources tell us of the purchase by sweaty Salvador Pinto da França. With a 600,000 euro estate in Portugal in debt to the bone, Salvador Pinto da França has no alternative but to try and nibble away at the European Union's humanitarian allowances to pay off his debts, hence the interest in auditing his management of these allowances.